So here's a huge question. How do we build for a future that we literally can't predict? That is the puzzle facing architects and engineers right now, and the answer could completely change our cities and, how we live in them.
Okay, let's dive right into the core of the problem. Every single building, the one you're in right now, is on the front lines, facing a climate that's getting more and more extreme and unpredictable every single year.
For decades, the main goal for architects, the North Star, has been pretty simple. Just use less energy. The entire focus was on efficiency, shrinking our carbon footprint and taking some strain off the power grid. Now, this relentless drive for efficiency, it sparked a huge global movement towards what we call net zero buildings. We're talking about structures so incredibly efficient that they actually generate as much energy as they consume. It's an enormous and, frankly, a vital goal for the planet. So how do we actually get there? Well, researchers don't just, throw darts at a board. They run thousands of incredibly complex simulations, testing every possible strategy, every policy, every piece of tech to map out the best path forward to net zero. Take this study from Melbourne. It lays out 4 totally different futures. On one end, you have a high carbon path, which is basically, business as usual. And on the other extreme, you've got this net zero future that needs massive retrofits of existing buildings and a complete 100% switch to renewables. It just goes to show there isn't one single answer, but this whole spectrum of choices, each with massive consequences. And trying to find the one single perfect design, it's next to impossible. When you start factoring in everything, insulation, windows, HVAC systems, solar panels, you name it, researchers have found there are over 16 billion possible design combinations for just one building. They need super powerful algorithms just to make sense of all the options. But here's where the story takes a turn. This intense, almost obsessive focus on finding that single most efficient solution, it has actually uncovered a deep, fundamental flaw in how we've been doing things. Here it is. Here's the catch. All of our models, our fancy simulations, our entire design philosophy, it's all been based on historical weather data. We're designing state-of-the-art buildings for a typical year based on the climate of the past. And this just nails the problem perfectly. A building that is fine-tuned for an average year can be dangerously, catastrophically unprepared for the extremes. It's kind of like training a marathon runner on a perfectly flat track, and then on race day, telling them to run up a mountain. During a record-shattering heat wave or a polar vortex, that perfectly optimized system can completely fail. And as researchers are warning us, this isn't just a theory. This is what causes massive blackouts during heat waves, when everyone cranks up their AC and the building's energy demands just overwhelm the grid. It's a scenario that has put lives at risk everywhere, from Chicago to Europe, turning buildings that are supposed to be shelters into dangerous traps. Okay, so this realization is leading to a major, and I think really exciting, shift in thinking. Instead of just chasing maximum efficiency, the new goal is designing for something called robustness. So what in the world does robust design actually mean? Well, in a word, it's about stability. Instead of creating a building that's perfectly efficient under one very specific set of normal conditions, the goal is to create one that performs really well and predictably, no matter what the weather throws at it. I love this analogy because it just makes so much sense. We're not just designing a fragile race car for a perfect, predictable racetrack anymore. We have to start designing for the bumpy, unpredictable, all-terrain reality of our future climate. So to do this, researchers came up with this really innovative method they call the triple weather test. Instead of just simulating a design against one typical weather year, they tested against 3: a typical year, an extremely warm year, and an extremely cold year. This forces the design to prove that it can handle not just the average day, but the plausible extremes on both ends of the thermometer. So, what happens when you actually put this into practice? What does one of these robustly designed buildings look like on paper? Well, the results are pretty stunning. Okay, first off, and this is the real win-win here, the robustly designed building actually uses less energy on average. We're talking about 14.4% less than a standard, already pretty efficient building. So you don't have to sacrifice efficiency to get resilience. You actually get both. But here is the most important result. This is the real game changer. When researchers stress-tested these designs against dozens of different future climate scenarios, the standard building's performance was all over the map. The robust building, though,
It was incredibly stable, super predictable. Its energy use barely changed no matter what climate it was put up against.
In fact, to put a number on it, a fully optimized, robustly designed building shows 81.5% less variation in its energy performance. Now, what that means is that it's not just more efficient, it is vastly more reliable, more predictable, and at the end of the day, a whole lot safer for whatever future is coming. And all of this really forces us to ask a tough, fundamental question. In our race for perfection, have we accidentally been designing incredible buildings for a climate that just doesn't exist anymore? The choice is becoming crystal clear. We can keep building these beautiful monuments to a stable past, or we can start building resilient shelters for a very uncertain future.